Deep within the humid jungles of Southeast Asia rises a monument so vast, so symmetrical, and so impossibly grand that it seems less like something built by human hands, and more like something summoned from myth. Stone towers pierce the sky like the peaks of a forgotten mountain range. Endless corridors stretch into shadow. Carvings of gods, warriors, and celestial dancers line walls that extend for miles. This is Angkor Wat, the largest religious monument ever constructed on Earth. It covers more than 400 acres. Its outer wall alone stretches for over 3.5 kilometers. And at its heart rise 5 enormous towers designed to mimic the peaks of a sacred cosmic mountain. But Angkor Wat is more than just an architectural masterpiece. It is a mystery carved into stone. Because this temple was not built by a civilization at its peak of technological advancement. It was built nearly 900 years ago, deep within a tropical jungle, by an empire most of the world had forgotten. An empire that rose from the floodplains of Southeast Asia to dominate an entire region. An empire known as the Khmer Empire. At the center of this empire stood a powerful ruler, whose ambition would reshape the landscape forever. A king who believed his destiny was written in the stars. His name was Suryavarman, and the monument he ordered built would become the greatest temple the world has ever known. But why? Why would an empire devote unimaginable resources to build something so vast? Was it an act of devotion, a display of power, a message to the gods? Or perhaps something even more extraordinary? To understand why Angkor Wat exists, we must travel back in time to an age when kings claimed divine power, and temples were designed to mirror the universe itself. Long before Angkor Wat rose from the jungle floor, the land that is now Cambodia was home to a rapidly growing civilization. By the 9th century, Khmer rulers had begun building a powerful state centered around irrigation, agriculture, and monumental architecture. The fertile plains surrounding the massive lake known as Tonle Sap provided abundant rice harvests that could feed enormous populations. With food came power. With power came ambition. Over time, Khmer rulers expanded their influence across vast territories, extending control into areas that are today Thailand, Laos, and Vietnam. At its height, the Khmer Empire governed millions of people. Its capital city, Angkor, became one of the largest urban centers on Earth. While much of medieval Europe remained fragmented and rural, Angkor was thriving. Massive reservoirs stored water during monsoon seasons. Sophisticated canal networks carried water across miles of farmland. Roads connected distant provinces, and temples rose across the landscape like stone mountains. But these temples were more than places of worship. They were symbols of something deeper, something cosmic. In the Khmer worldview, kings were not simply political leaders, they were divine. The concept came from Hindu traditions brought to Southeast Asia through centuries of cultural exchange with India. In this system, the king was seen as a Devaraja god-king. He was believed to embody divine authority on earth. His rule was not merely political, it was cosmic. To demonstrate this sacred power, Khmer kings built enormous temples designed to represent the structure of the universe. At the center of Hindu cosmology stood a sacred mountain known as Mount Meru. Mount Meru was believed to be the axis of the universe, the home of the gods. Surrounded by oceans and continents, it formed the center of all existence. Khmer temples were designed to recreate this cosmic mountain. Each new king built a temple mountain to symbolize his connection to the divine order. The higher the temple rose, the closer it came to heaven, and the greater the king's legitimacy. But none of these temples would approach the scale of what was about to be built. In the early 12th century, the Khmer Empire was shaken by conflict. Power struggles erupted within the royal family. Rival factions competed for control of the throne. Out of this chaos emerged a determined and ambitious prince. Suryavarman II seized power round the year 1113. His rise was not peaceful. Historical inscriptions suggest that he fought fiercely to claim the throne. And like many rulers who gained power through conflict, he needed to legitimize his rule. He needed to prove to nobles, priests, and citizens that the gods themselves had chosen him. His solution was monumental. He would construct the greatest temple the world had ever seen. A structure so immense, so precise, and so spiritually significant that it would place him forever among the divine rulers of history. Construction began shortly after he took power. The site chosen was near the capital city of Angkor. There, engineers, architects, priests, and laborers began planning something unprecedented. A temple unlike any the world had ever known. The construction of Angkor Wat was an engineering feat that still amazes modern historians and archaeologists. Millions of sandstone blocks were used to create the temple. Each block weighed up to 1.5 tons. The stone came from quarries located over 40 kilometers away. Workers cut the stone from mountains and transported it using rafts along rivers and canals. From there, the blocks were dragged by teams of laborers and elephants. Some estimates suggest that over 300,000 workers and thousands of skilled artisans participated in the construction. The temple complex itself covers more than 160 hectares. A massive moat nearly 200 meters wide surrounds the entire structure. Inside the moat stands an enormous outer wall. Beyond that lies a vast courtyard and a long sandstone causeway leading to the central temple. And rising above everything are 5 towering spires. These towers form the iconic silhouette that defines Angkor Wat today. But their design was far from random. Angkor Wat was designed to represent the structure of the cosmos. The 5 central towers symbolize the peaks of Mount Meru. The surrounding walls represent the mountain ranges that encircle the world. And the massive moat represents the cosmic ocean that surrounds the continents. Even the measurements of the temple reflect astronomical and cosmic symbolism. Many scholars believe the temple's dimensions correspond to sacred numbers used in Hindu cosmology. Every staircase, corridor, and courtyard was designed with symbolic meaning. The temple was not just a building, it was a 3-dimensional map of the universe. And at its center stood the king's connection to the divine. But there was another unusual feature. Unlike most Hindu temples, Angkor Wat faces west. West is traditionally associated with death in many Asian cultures. This has led historians to believe that the temple may have served as the funerary monument of Suryavarman II. A temple not only to honor the gods but also to secure the king's immortality. The walls of Angkor Wat are covered in some of the most remarkable carvings ever created. Bas-reliefs stretch across nearly a kilometer of galleries. These carvings depict scenes from Hindu mythology, royal ceremonies, and epic battles. Among the most famous scenes are stories from the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. Thousands of celestial dancers known as apsaras appear throughout the temple. Each one is unique, each carved with astonishing detail. Their expressions, jewelry, and hairstyles differ from figure to figure. It is believed that more than 3,000 apsaras decorate the temple walls. Together they create the illusion that the stone itself has come alive. These carvings were not merely decoration. They told stories, they preserved beliefs, and they immortalized the culture of the Khmer Empire. At the time Angkor Wat was completed, the Khmer Empire stood at the height of its power. Its armies controlled vast territories. Its cities thrived. Its irrigation systems supported millions of people. Foreign travelers arriving in Angkor would have encountered a city unlike any other in the world. Great avenues lined with temples, markets filled with merchants from distant lands, priests conducting elaborate rituals, and at the center of it all, the towering silhouette of Angkor Wat. The temple served as a powerful symbol. It demonstrated the wealth and strength of the empire. It proclaimed the divine authority of the king. And it connected the earthly kingdom with the cosmic order of the universe. But even the greatest empires cannot last forever. By the 14th century, the stability of the Khmer Empire began to unravel. Climate changes brought unpredictable monsoon patterns. The massive irrigation networks that sustained agriculture began to fail. Political conflicts weakened the royal court, and external threats grew stronger. One of the most powerful rivals was the Ayutthaya kingdom, located to the west. In 1431, Ayutthayan forces attacked Angkor. The once mighty capital was eventually abandoned. Temples fell silent, cities emptied, and over time, the jungle slowly reclaimed the landscape. Trees grew through stone walls, roots wrapped around ancient towers. For centuries, Angkor faded from the awareness of much of the world. Yet Angkor Wat remained standing, protected by its moat, and maintained by Buddhist monks who continued to worship there. In the 19th century, Western explorers traveling through Southeast Asia encountered the ruins of Angkor. Among them was the French naturalist Henry Mouat. When Mouat saw Angkor Wat, he was stunned. He wrote that the temple was grander than anything left by the civilizations of ancient Greece or ancient Rome. His writings introduced Angkor to the Western world. Soon archaeologists, historians, and explorers began studying the ruins. What they discovered changed our understanding of Southeast Asian history forever. Angkor was not a forgotten outpost. It had once been one of the greatest cities on Earth. So why did the Khmer Empire build the largest religious monument ever known? The answer lies in a powerful combination of faith, politics, and ambition. For Suryavarman II, Angkor Wat was a declaration of divine authority. It proved his connection to the gods. It legitimized his rule. It united his empire under a shared spiritual vision. And it ensured that his legacy would endure long after his death. Angkor Wat was not just a temple. It was a cosmic statement, a symbol that the Khmer Empire stood at the center of the universe. And nearly 9 centuries later, that message still echoes across the jungle. Today, Angkor Wat remains the largest religious monument on Earth. Its towers still rise above the forests of Cambodia. Millions of visitors walk its corridors every year. Yet, despite centuries of study, the temple still inspires awe and mystery, because Angkor Wat is more than stone and architecture. It is the embodiment of a civilization's greatest dream, the dream of connecting heaven and earth, the dream of immortality, and the dream that through monumental creation, human beings can leave a mark on eternity. If you want to uncover more forgotten empires, powerful rulers, and untold stories that changed the course of civilization, subscribe to the channel and join the journey through history.